These rules are terrible. They are nothing like real samurai warfare.
Who do you think you are, Yamamoto?
So my problem with this is that it's not really historically accurate. You're not even guaranteed to move. Like, what are we playing?
These rules are really fun, Matt. I mean, Warmaster Revolution has a great samurai list. But I guess if you want a guaranteed move, we could play Chutes and Ladders.
We need historical accuracy.
We need fun.
Accuracy!
Fun!
Accuracy!
Bring it!
Bandai!
Today in Mark's Game Room, we are taking you to medieval Japan during the age of the samurai. We'll use Warmaster Revolution to wargame the Battle of Sekigahara, the climactic battle of the samurai period, which crowned the ultimate shogun. Tom will travel to Japan to visit the battlefield today.
We're here at Sekigahara Station, and right here, I believe, we're actually at the heart of what would have been the Eastern Army's lines.
And Professor Tom Conlan will give us some insights into the nature of samurai warfare.
And so the key thing is actually, if you think about the slowness of gunners and all that, you have to have the pike. So it's dominant pike. Pike are dominant, pike are entrenched, pike are almost everywhere.
What was warfare really like during the Battle of Sekigahara in the year 1600? We are hoping to find out if Warmaster Revolutions can give us a fun and historically accurate game about samurai warfare. This was a great opportunity to meet another war game club called the I-95 Gamers, who are based along Interstate 95 south of Washington, D.C. They invited the Mark's Game Room guys over for a club versus club grudge match. They have a huge collection of Wargames Atlantic 10mm samurai miniatures and have put together an epic-looking Battle of Sekigahara.
This awesome array. How did you paint all this?
It took a while, but it's relatively easy, as you did in your video, and I love what you did with your figures over there. I mean, it's basically a slap chop, which is, you know, dry brush over black. Use the contrast paints and the army speed paints and get it done. Just a dry brush and make it happen.
The Battle of Sekigahara was fought during a period of civil war in Japan. In the late 16th century, power in the country was divided between Tokugawa Ieyasu with his eastern army and Ishida Mitsunari with his western army. Whoever won the battle could claim power over the entire island of Japan. But the nature of warfare at the time made it difficult for one side to quickly and decisively defeat their foe.
And you have a period where defensive tactics are prime. And when that's the case, it's a lot like the Western Front of the First World War, where it becomes a sort of it's an endeavor where one cannot achieve an easy victory. That no, you cannot achieve at a pitched battle any kind of success.
Although most battles in this period favored the defense, Sekigahara was different.
What's different about Sekigahara is that you have a battle that came right out of a political conflict. And so because of that, you have a rapid alliance, you have the rapid movement of armies, and actually the Tokugawa forces, they move so quickly to surprise the other side of things. And so that's why I'd say that, so because of that, there's not the ponderous nature of these troops. You don't have entrenching and everything else happen like that. It's a much more fluid thing. That's why it's different.
After a couple weeks of marching and several sieges of strategic castles, Ishida found himself at a disadvantage. He decided to retreat with his western army to the town of Sekigahara, which was nestled in a valley surrounded by imposing mountains. There he planned to ambush Tokugawa's eastern army. The Ishida coalition held a strong position as they occupied the heights on three sides of the valley. The Tokugawa army had seemingly walked into a trap. While Ishida Mitsunari and Kobayakawa Hideki pinned the Tokugawa from the front, the Mori clan could sweep down and attack them from the rear. Tom rode through the valley to find Ishida's headquarters and get a picture of what the commander of the Western Army could see.
I'm here in Ishida's camp. This is the left flank of the Western Army. And so this is where the commanders would have been positioned up on this hill. And they have a pretty commanding view of the battlefield. If you look out behind me, you can pretty much see everything in Sekigahara where the hardest fighting was. And now it surprised me initially that the command was positioned here out on the left flank instead of centrally located. But when you're up on this hill, it's a bit of a hike up. You can see why. It's a very safe position and offers a great view of the battlefield. You can imagine how they were sending up their signal flares here to signal their troops to attack. And something that struck me about the battlefield that I didn't really grasp from just reading is how close the opposing sides were situated even before the fighting started.
The battlefield was wrapped in fog on the morning of the battle. As it lifted, both armies were surprised as how close they were to each other. Our game will start at the moment the fog lifts. The game board will only depict the main part of the battle, where Tokugawa faces off against Ishida and his ally Kobayakawa. Here is the game table. Ishida's Western Army, played by the I-95 gamers, is set up here. For reference, Tom would be standing on the extreme left flank, where Ishida has his headquarters. To the extreme right are the Kobayakawa allies. They cannot be used until Ishida calls for them and makes a successful communication die roll. On the other side of the table is the Tokugawa army, played by the boys from Mark's game room. Tom and Carl will be playing the roles of the army commanders. Tom will be Tokugawa and Carl will be Ishida. They will participate via Zoom and will be able to see only a limited view of the game board. Victory will go to the side that destroys more enemy units by the end of turn 4.
All right, Mark's game room. My loyal sub-commanders who scouted the field. The fog's starting to burn off. What's it looking like out there?
Honorable Daimyo, we see the enemy arrayed before us. The forces look more or less evenly matched. We have some reserve cavalry, which are at your command. You may dispose of them where you see fit. We have infantry and muskets and bows prepared to go forward against the enemy. There is a thin stream on the left, but it should be easy to ford. And on the right side, the enemy has set up a series of barricades. The enemy's right side position will be difficult to assault.
There's nothing for it but to attack. I think our left flank can hold off for now. Move up in a general advance, and let's launch the fiercest of the fighting right in their center and see how they react.
As you command, Daimyo.
Now the Western Army, played by the I-95 gamers, will hear from their leader Carl about his plan of battle.
How are we going to sweep these Tokugawa dogs from the field, especially Matt?
We've got our entrenchments on the left here, on our left. They're going to give us defended positions, which are substantial. The rest are matched up pretty well with the Tokugawa clan.
The fortifications on the I-95 gamers' left flank were imposing enough to cause the Mark's game room team to avoid a direct assault on them. Tom got a look at reconstructed fortifications on the actual battlefield.
So behind me are some of the fortifications that would have been typical at the Battle of Sekigahara, and we're actually at the base of Mount Sasau. And these fortifications would have been perfect to fire arquebuses through, and when the enemy got to grips with you, you could easily use spears to ward off an attack, and that's exactly what was done many times here at the base of the mountain, as the armies repeatedly clashed at this point, but no breakthrough was possible until late in the day when the flank attack was launched.
We will let them smash upon us like water upon a rock.
The plans for both sides are very straightforward. The Tokugawa army will launch a powerful attack in the center, while Ishida's army will remain on the defense.
Shall we attack the center?
We must go forth and obey our daimyo.
That was our last legitimate command from the commander, so we will carry it out until further orders.
Charge!
All right, so
Ben begins his attack by rolling to activate his units. In Warmaster, you must roll to activate. If you fail, your units will not act. Ben succeeds and his troops move out. While Ben charges in the center, on the Tokugawa right flank, Matt unleashes his arquebus and engages in a firefight. He thinks it wise to shoot at the fortifications instead of charging them. In Warmaster, shooting seldom results in casualties. Instead, units are usually pushed back. How deadly was gun and bow fire in the actual Battle of Sekigahara?
Here's how I would imagine it. You have, in the battlefield, in front of the forces, like a cloud, mosquito-like cloud of skirmishers. The melee battle, the hand-to-hand combat, is something that is extremely rare under all circumstances. The only time you see a higher percentage, and like say, and that would be like a third of wounds, is when an army's surrounded, or it is a castle that's being directly assaulted. Otherwise, it's generally at best typical, I'd say from 15 to 25% would be melee wounds. And the vast majority, generally 75 to 80%, are projectile wounds. That's just the way it is. You do not, this is the big problem with films and everything else, is that when people are shooting at each other, you don't actually come into hand-to-hand combat very often. Probably for the game experience, just having people get picked off and wounded and kind of going by just shooting at each other is probably less fulfilling and exciting.
Meanwhile, in the center, Ben continues to advance and prepares to charge. But halfway to reaching the enemy lines, disaster strikes.
We have blundered. We have blundered in our initial charge.
A blunder is rolled, and his force grinds to a halt in the face of the enemy.
Honorable Daimyo, the charge in the center is faltering. I need your commands to get the troops to move forward. May I have them?
Tom can allow one of his commanders to re-roll a failed activation once during the game. Is this the time for him to use it? The real Battle of Sekigahara started with a famous charge as well. The Tokugawa started the battle when a group of crimson-clad warriors, named the Red Devils, slammed into the Ishida forces.
Right here in the center of the Western Army's lines, this is another area where the fighting would have been quite thick and where the battle would have been launched with the charge of the Red Devils right at the center.
Inspired by visiting the site of the charge of the Red Devils, Tom decides to use his command reroll.
I will focus my efforts here. Redouble the efforts. Forward. I give you my command.
As you command, sir. We use the daimyo to re-roll. They go forward.
Worth it.
Ben manages to get his troops moving and charges in the center, hitting the Ishida troops. Meanwhile, Matt moves his troops away from the fortifications to reinforce the center. It looks like a powerful attack. In the Warmaster rules, you roll dice to determine how hard you have hit the enemy. The more dice, the better. Ben's attack has 16 dice.
1, 2, 3
All right,
for your arithmetic.
I rolled
So that,
16 dice and got 3 hits with the one assault I was able to make with the blunders. The center is a disaster
put a 3 there.
already.
The center attack is not going well. Even with reinforcements, the attack has been stopped cold. But the Tokugawa army has yet to commit its left flank, so Austin moves forward to try and help the faltering center.
Getting a charge with the samurai off, and we're going to throw in Toto to make him terrifying. That means we... Alright, 17 dice in the follow-up combat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hits.
Well, this game can be bloody, and losing an entire samurai unit on the first combat is rough.
A token is added to this cup whenever a unit is lost. More on that later. Austin's initial attack is devastating. Its success is due in part by the samurai cavalry unit, which hit the Ishida troops on the flank. How was cavalry used in this period of Japanese warfare?
Cavalry, if they confront open pike, they're going to be killed. But what it seems to be happening, I'd say around the 1450s, is there's this movement toward creating a force with just substantially a lot of pikes. And that happened, and then this Hatakeyama force had a bunch of pikes, and they just stopped the cavalry. And it's kind of like, you've seen the Braveheart. There's a Braveheart moment that's happening basically in 1468. So the idea that the cavalry can roam, it's not the case. So if you have a cavalry force that you think is going to be effective, it will not be effective at all. So this idea of the samurai cavalry moving around, it just won't work. It'd be more for, like if you're trying to go where there's no enemy, it's for rapid movement in undefended regions. Maybe it's for surprise, what have you.
Whether samurai cavalry is overly effective in the Warmaster rules is something to ponder. But in our game of Sekigahara, they are powerful units, as Austin has discovered with his successful charge.
I don't know what the other daimyos are doing.
We're faltering in our advance. I'm glad to hear your flank is going okay.
So there we go.
With the Tokugawa center in shambles, Karl decides it is time to commit his powerful reserves. He aims to use his cavalry to break the enemy center.
In this moment of weakness, we must strike while the iron is hot, commit the reserves. Break their center.
The I-95 gamers charge their samurai cavalry reserve into Ben's troops. It is a powerful attack. Meanwhile, off to the flank, more cavalry is committed to try and stop Austin.
This might save my flank over here.
The cavalry charge shatters Austin's troops, and the tide begins to turn.
No. The flank is crumbling. My samurai.
When a unit is destroyed, a colored token is added to this cup. Green for Mark's game room and red for the I-95 gamers. It keeps track of losses. While Austin is getting beat up on the flank, Ben is getting hit in the center by the I-95 gamers' counterattack. He is hit hard and suffers grievous losses.
And the counterattack pushes the enemy back.
We're happy to report, Daimo, that we have pushed back the enemy in the center with a successful counterattack.
All right. Sushi and sake's on me, everybody.
Outstanding.
We got this.
What surprised me when I was at the Sekigahara battlefield is that actually you could not, I think this is one of the key things, is that no participant could get a sense of the whole battlefield. It's that big. And you cannot, if you're in the center, you can't see either wing. And so none of these commanders would really have a good sense of that. So that's why I would say if you're going to do something where you want to have more control and knowledge, Sekigahara is not your battle because it's so chaotic in that sense.
We're here at Tokugawa's forward operating camp. Now, this is where his camp would have moved a few hours into the battle. He moved it up here once the battle had sort of stalled out, and he wanted to inspire his troops by putting it up here and further putting pressure on the forces that were up on Mount Matsuo.
At ground level, the army commanders would only have had a limited view of the battle. But a short distance from Tom is a museum which has a viewing deck on the top floor. This shows us a view that most war gamers see on the tabletop. What a difference!
And then if we pan down the battle lines through here, we get to the flank of the army here at Mount Matsuo, directly ahead of us.
It is in this area that Austin is fighting for his life in our game. One of his cavalry units is surrounded by the enemy and crushed.
Another cav unit of mine died.
The dishonor's accumulating.
The game has reached a critical moment. The Tokugawa army, played by Mark's Game Room, is reeling from the Ishida counterattack. Ben in the center and Austin on the flank have suffered many casualties. Both teams decide to appeal to their army commanders for reinforcements. The I-95 team asks Carl to try and commit the Kobayakova allies on the far flank. If they will join the battle, Austin's fate will be sealed, and the game almost surely will be over.
Once again, great daimyo, request that you summon the extra troops on the hill.
There's no downside. Okay. Then yes, I accede to your request, O groveling one. Please. Let's roll them bones. Pick somebody who actually can roll well.
A die roll is made to see if the Kobayakova will join the battle. A roll of 10 or higher is needed.
Nothing if not consistent.
Amazing.
Ben now petitions Tom.
Daimyo, the center is going every bit as badly as you might have imagined in your worst nightmares. We need your reserves here to stabilize the situation.
I see. And what do my other commanders have to say? The battlefield is clouded with gun smoke. Clarify the situation.
My troops on the right, Daimyo, are moving to the center already, but I'm sure that with the addition of the reserves, we could do even better.
Well, on the left, we have one good push with the infantry left, but we also don't have any cav, and they also have cav. So we are currently losing in that capability.
I see. It does seem as though the moment is at hand. We must commit the reserves. Now, my instructions are as follows. Our right flank should regroup and largely avoid further engagement if possible. The reserves are to move to our left flank and support the centers as the best they can. Let's make one more strong push on that left flank and break through.
We have one last chance to break the center with our remaining troops.
Yes.
If we lead them personally into battle, we can do great damage to the enemy.
I believe.
Join me in the charge.
Ah!
Ben and Matt decide to go all in. They draw their katanas and join the reserve cavalry in this do-or-die charge. The game mimics history. In the actual battle, the Shimazu clan was facing defeat as Ishida's army was losing. Rather than retreat, they charged.
Shimazu, which were battle-hardened troops, they did the most sensible thing, but it sounds like the craziest thing. They attacked straight into the enemy lines. They took tremendous casualties, but they did. Now, what did they have? They clearly had people on foot and they came on horseback, but they just took everything because they see from their right that, they're being attacked. The best way out was just to attack the center Tokugawa line. And they cut their way through, but they were desperate. They took heavy casualties. They cut their way through. We don't know exactly, what did they have? They must have been much more cavalry then, because it's everything, everyone moving as quickly as they can. And so that's what they did. It's remarkable.
We're going in!
Matt's cavalry hits the enemy from the front and flank. This is the best way to attack a unit in the Warmaster rules. The I-95 gamers wait to see how powerful the charge will be.
So we consolidated all of our cavalry that were left in the center, and we did a massive charge in the middle. We're going to roll 30 dice on this unit that's on the front of their line and try and just catch it out.
Okay.
I just got it. So you got 50. Okay,
We're
here we go.
happy,
Banzai! Oh my god.
Oh, geez.
Oh my god.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 hits. A good roll on top of that.
Well above average.
That's just on those front two guys.
The charge is so powerful, it obliterates the front enemy infantry, and then sweeps into the next unit in line.
I got 17 dice on this pursuit. Let's go. Woo! All right.
He killed them all! No prisoners.
Slaughtered them! Slaughtered them!
The Ishida center has been crushed, and more grim news arrives from their flank, where Austin led his own charge with one unit of the reserve cavalry.
We've driven back
Three real
the onslaught on the left flank. The cavalry did a glorious charge and just rolled up the line.
Not very far, 5 centimeters. Measure for each individually.
The I-95 guys inspect the cup to see which side has more casualties. With their reserves already spent, the only hope they have is the Kobayakawa allies, who have not yet joined the fight. What did they do in the actual Battle of Sekigahara? The battle swayed back and forth until Ishida Mitsunari determined the time was right to order his flanking forces to attack. But both Kobayakawa and Mori did not move. Treachery was afoot. For the remainder of the battle, the Mori clan would remain bystanders and not engage in the fighting. Meanwhile, Kobayakawa became a turncoat and ordered his troops to charge into the fight and attack Ishida in the flank, and turned the battle decisively for Tokugawa.
And one thing I love, this would be, I think, really fun to have in your games, is that if you had, there was sometimes these forces that just be there, and they were neutral. So they had they were just waiting to see who's winning. And once it became clear one side's winning, they put on the badge and then they go. If the Kobayakawa had not shifted, Ishida's forces would have won that battle. It's pretty clear. Their disposition was better, the numbers were even. If he didn't have this wavering, and if the Mori had committed as well, they would have won easily.
It was from these hills that the turncoats charged into Ishida's flank. It is time to determine what they will do in our game. They will join the side that has lost the fewest troops.
So now is the time for the turncoats to enter the battle. They'll go in on the winning side. The winning side is the green Eastern Army. They've lost less people, have better reputation. They are not dishonorable.
Yeah! Allies!
Oh, we never doubted you.
Them from the field.
I need that. You're just a...
All right, the real Mitsunari fled the battle in disguise afterwards and was caught. So I'm preparing my villager garb to try and get out of here. But every man for himself. I believe that is an ancient Japanese saying. So I'm gonna get out of here. We fought well, but it's time to throw in the towel. I'll see you guys with our heads all on the same pikes next to each other. So.
We're here at the final encampment of Tokugawa Ieyasu, and this is where he also would have inspected the heads of the fallen commanders at the end of the Battle of Sekigahara. This is the exact same spot where he would inspect the heads of the defeated commanders of the Western Army.
Tokugawa Ieyasu's victory in the Valley of Sekigahara set the course of Japanese history for the next 200 years. Our war game gave us a look at the history of this battle, while exploring the nature of warfare for the samurai armies.
So what do you think, Yamamoto? Did that hit your high historical standards?
Are you nuts? We'll have to discuss it in an upcoming video, so stay tuned. Subscribe. Are we on camera? Yeah. Oh, I was so not ready. All right.